Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Steven Brown, and in today's video, guys, let's go over what the Leafs are more than likely going to do in free agency this year. This is from an article that Elliotte Friedman published last night. Toronto has made it clear finding Jack Campbell's partner is its #1 priority, and whatever cap room is left over will fill out the forward core. That is Friedman saying it there, and Kyle Dubas basically said the exact same thing when he gave an interview in the middle of the draft on Saturday. And hey, we've talked about it here on this channel for a while now. If Kerfoot could be a guy the Leafs could look to move on from, but there hasn't really been any conversations or anything that I've read or heard or anyone else has talked about that suggests that they are interested in moving this player at the time being. As for who could be on the move from the players that are on the screen right now, they have come out and said that they're not necessarily too happy with both Ilya Mikheyev and Pierre Engvall. Now, this just depends on your preference. The Leafs are going to need every dollar they can possibly scrounge, so maybe looking to move one or both of these players might make sense, but at the same time, if you were to place a guy like Engvall on waivers and he clears, you have a little bit of center depth, and it only costs $125,000 against the salary cap. And if he doesn't clear and someone claims him, I'm not going to be overly upset about it. Now, I do think that Liljegren does play a large chunk of games for the Leafs next season. Let's hold off from putting him in the lineup just for now. Now, with the Leafs saying that they're more than likely just going to fill out the forward core with whatever cap space is left over, I do think that that benefits Nick Robertson and makes it more likely that he starts the season in the NHL with the team. So that essentially leaves $9.6 million for now to find a backup goalie, which is the priority, and get 2 more forwards. And since the Leafs have let it be known that finding a backup goaltender to play with Jack Campbell next year is their priority, this is a chart with a bunch of contextual stats that I put together for a couple of videos ago looking at all the UFA goalies that Toronto has to choose from. Now, there are definitely better options on this list than others, but what the contextual data reveals is that it's more or less a compromise between the choices that you have, and it depends on you, the individual, that's going to make you lean towards one goalie more than the other. And that's pretty deep. But the reality is that it's not just as simple as sorting by goals saved above expectation here and picking out the highest number, because there are flaws in every advanced stat that the contextual stats reveal. Do you just want a goalie that stops all the shots that he should and doesn't necessarily save any of those high danger opportunities? You leave the defense to take care of those. Do you want a goalie that bails you out here and there and saves some of those high danger scoring opportunities, but maybe lets in a couple of softies? Are you wanting to maybe bet on a guy that has a little bit of an injury history? How old are you willing to go when it comes to a backup goalie here? Do you want that guy that's just extremely low maintenance that can start games if he needs to, but also be a backup and be perfectly okay with that? It depends on what you value. Again, there are better options than others. Now, Chris Driedger, before he was signed by the Seattle Kraken, had some of the best numbers out of all of the UFA goalies that were set to be available on Wednesday, and he signed a $3.5 million a year contract for 3 years. So we have our placeholder here, $3.5 million. I don't see any of the names on that list costing any more than what Chris Driedger got with the Seattle expansion team. I know that the Leafs are limited in terms of what they can do by the salary cap, but I like having as many options as I possibly can, and having a guy like Dermott ahead of Liljegren, making Liljegren earn that spot, and maybe being able to reevaluate whether or not you want him playing on a full-time basis by January or February when the trade deadline starts rolling around isn't the worst thing. But that also doesn't rule out possibly moving on from a guy like Dermott, as a lot of teams did lose a defenseman to Seattle in the expansion draft, and maybe they're looking for a cheap depth option. So with about $5.3 million in cap space here to find 2 forwards, I don't know how everyone's going to feel about that. Maybe they look to bring back a guy like Alex Galchenyuk, who did have some chemistry in their top 6, will produce a bit offensively, and probably comes pretty cheap. If that's the case, there's about $4 million there to go out and get another top 6 forward. Ideally, you sign someone that just slots everyone down here. And that allows Robertson an opportunity to start on the 4th line there with a guy like Brooks and Spezza, play some power play time, and if he deserves more, yeah, I have no problem putting him in the top 6 instead of a guy like Galchenyuk and slotting him down on that 4th line. When they said that they were running it back, they really weren't kidding. You know, the irony that comes out of that 2018 playoff run where everyone was begging the Leafs to ride and die with the core. And now that they are riding and they are dying with the core, everyone is losing their minds. I'm not laughing at the people that are upset that they're rolling it back. I'm just laughing at the situation as a whole. You know, over the draft, when everyone saw those defensemen getting traded for just astronomical returns, everyone wanted the Leafs to look into moving Morgan Rielly, and it's just like, that's not something that they said that they were going to be doing. They said that they wanted to wait until after free agency to look at possibly extending this player and then going from there and seeing what their options are if they can't get that sorted. He just cannot be an own rental, Kyle. He can't be. Sign him or trade him. There can't be anything other than those two things. I want to give the Leafs the benefit of the doubt when it comes to Morgan Rielly and say that they kind of already know what the number more or less is, and it's just the Morgan Rielly camp that's waiting until after free agency to see if there's any more comparable contracts that they can draw from. Because if the Leafs are waiting till after free agency to talk to this guy and figure out what his number is, and it turns out to be astronomical, well then you have your answer on what's going to happen with him, and because they've waited, they might have missed out on an opportunity to trade him and get full value, like what everyone else was doing in and around the draft. Even if Dubas would have pulled off the 4D chess move that everyone wanted him to do, and that's trading Morgan Rielly and signing Dougie Hamilton to replacing him, you know, I don't really think that that puts them in any better situation than what they are in right now, rolling it back. Because the best players on this team are still Matthews, it's still Tavares, it's still Marner, it's still Nylander. If you're not going to change that, any other changes that you would make aside from those, it do not matter. They don't. You know, and he said in his interview that he did on Saturday during the middle of the draft that, oh, you know, everyone may roll their eyes at this, but the core is really looking at this year's playoff laws different than years past. No, Kyle, I didn't roll my eyes at that. I died laughing when you said that. Because that's exactly what I expected you to say, and you said it. So it's just like, you thought that the Titanic sunk slow? Man, the Leafs are way outdoing them. It could go that way, or, you know, they could do it. Because if they can just do what they do in the regular season in the playoffs, there's no real issue here. And you know, I get it. They're 23, 24, and 25 years old. Nylander being the oldest, Matthews being the youngest. And Nylander, you know, he really did come out and have an amazing playoff series, scoring 5 goals in 7 games, 8 points. That guy's money, right? Took him a couple of years. So other guys are a couple of years younger. I can see what they see. Doesn't mean I'm happy about it. You know, I understand. I get it. When I read headlines like this, especially the last line there, Maple Leafs' GM isn't bending the knee for anyone. The first thought that pops into my mind is 2 years too late, Kyle. Yeah, I get it. I understand. I'm right there with you. Right? That doesn't mean that that's necessarily where I'm settling, but trust me, I am thinking it too. You know, I can understand it. There's people that are frustrated and there's people that are angry, and I can respect that. There's people that are optimistic, and I can respect that too. But the path that this is going down is that they're either going to look like geniuses for holding on to everyone, and maybe they add a couple of pieces at the deadline and that gets them over the hump, just like what happened with Tampa Bay 2 seasons ago, and now they're back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, right? They added Blake Coleman, they added Barclay Goodrow, they gave up 2 first-round picks and a prospect that was drafted in the first round. Back-to-back Cup champions. Or everyone is getting fired. What I can respect are the fans that are just angry and rooting for everyone to get fired. I don't understand you. But I guess that's going to be it for this video. Make sure to like the video if you did like it and subscribe for more, because more is always on the way. That's right. More is always on the way, regardless of the size of the tire fire that is going to be lit on Wednesday night, Thursday afternoon if things don't go well.